Hey folks, and welcome to another video from A Plain Truth for You, space for you, and Well Healed too. Oh, this is going to be fun. This subject is going to break ground. We're going to take this to levels that I think both Santos and myself are really going to explore this into a deep fashion that's never been. Mr. Astrotheology himself has covered the topic of flat Earth and astrotheology, but we were just talking today about astrology and how important it is and how the flat Earth is very prominent in all of astrology, which Santos's work is one of the only works that is out there that is also his work in syncretism as well. So let's explore a little more today with Mr. Santos Bonacci. We're in a beautiful valley out here in Mendocino, and I wrote a book on flat Earth back in November 2015, 2016, and Santos came out in his flat Earth explanations and historical narrative on it back around the same time. So we've both been doing it. We've never really talked to each other about flat Earth as well. So this will be fun. So let me give it over to Santos. And Santos, the question I want to ask you is, why would flat Earth and astrology work mechanically? Right? On the base level.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be handy to include the word stationary as well. So the concept of the Earth being stationary. So the ancients knew that the heavens were the ether. It was a field, a magnetic field, and it turned over the Earth. The Earth was a plane, hence it became a planet. So they were always mystified, compelled, and devoted to the movement of this field in the sky with stars in it. And they would be rotating yearly, always, above the Earth. And so the ether, along the ether, that dome or firmament, let's call it the firmament because that's how Ptolemy called it, the astrologer, 2nd century astrologer, who they attribute the stationary flat Earth to up until Copernicus. This is Ptolemy with a P, P-T, Ptolemy. Now, he spoke of the firmament, the 8th sphere, and in the Bible it also speaks of this firmament, and in the Psalms. And this firmament, the Greeks say, the stars are pinned to them like nails on a wall. And so there is certain stars and constellations in that field in the sky that run along the ecliptic, and that's where everything was based, the ecliptic of the sun, you see. They followed the sun from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn yearly and studiously, right? So they would see that the sun would make a course from the Tropic of Capricorn in the winter all the way up to the Tropic of Cancer in the summer. And so following the path of the sun, we have what's called the ecliptic. The sun is always on the ecliptic. And many of the mysteries of heaven are understood better if you understand the ecliptic. I urge people to study it. My presentations are all based on the ecliptic, the sun's trajectory through the sky as it goes from Capricorn to Cancer. So they noticed that these circled around and made patterns, yearly. Aries would always turn up at the spring. Leo, the hot summer. Right now we just come out of Leo, we're in Virgo. So Virgo is the harvest. So you see where the sun is, it indicates where you are in the year. So the tropical year gives you the tropical astrological system. Okay? And so, in studying that, the ecliptic, you begin to understand how the sun is actually generating the whole field. It's centered on the sun. In this sense, I like to think of it as heliocentric, because it's the consciousness of the sun that we have. And yet the Earth is, but the whole system is geocentric, you see. The Ptolemaic system was geocentric, and then, of course, it became heliocentric in that and made the Earth move with Copernicus. So, this field, an Italian genius called Pierluigi Ghina has been studying this for till he died in 2004. And Pierluigi, he used to work with Marconi, the inventor of the radio, for 10 years. And he often recounts how they did testing to prove that the Earth is stationary with Marconi. And so you can see videos of Pierluigi Ghina on YouTube, little old man, genius, very well known in Italy and around the world. And this man insists that they prove easily that the Earth is stationary. And he takes you into his little laboratory and he shows you, I've presented all this in one of my videos on YouTube, on my channel. And there's Pierluigi, and he puts on his strobe lights. And what he does is he says there are two energies. There's the solar energy, which is turning and rotating, and then there's the Earth, which receives the solar energy in a right turning formation and returns it to the sun in a left turning. And these are the two energies that he put his strobe light connected to. Because what he did was he put tubes of aluminium with aluminium powder deep into the ground to harvest the Earth energy, left turning. And then the exact same shape above the ground, pipes filled with aluminium powder, believe it or not. And with this he could measure the rotating field. And so how he proves that the Earth is stationary was these strobe lights show an effect of movement around the room, and you can see the movement. And he says to the reporter, now notice that movement. That is where they believe that the Earth is turning, but they are wrong. It's the solar energy which is turning. So the point I wanted to make with that, with Pierluigi's explanation of the solar field, is that that is what we call the heavens, the ether, and that is what is moving, and that can only work on a stationary flat Earth, as astrology has always been geocentric in that respect. Long answer.
No, that was wonderful. I learned a lot there. All right, so this is something that my late great friend Bruce Hillier put together, and this is where we need to come a little historical narrative about where Einstein, not Einstein, but a guy named Tesla. I don't teach about in school. You know, that he came up that he gave Marconi the radio. Marconi took it from Tesla. But where did Tesla get the information from? Well, here's the two guys that they got it from. This is Bruce's work. Charles Augustin de Coulomb, C-O-U-L-O-M-B, late middle 1700s, 1800s, and J.J. Thomson. Well, it was Coulomb who was a civil engineer in England. You may know this, but he's the one that reproved from the ancients that the ether was electromagnetic energy. Mm-hmm. So he developed as a civil engineer a model to do this, and I can show you his model. It was actually on postage stamps. All right, and this is where the Coulomb, the joule, the electrical measurement unit comes from. Mm-hmm. Is the Coulomb is the joule. The joule is the measurement of energy, electricity. Electricians know this. Yep. Right. So the joule is actually based on the measurement of the Coulomb. So it's electromagnetic energy they're referring to in electricity. Back to this guy, who knows that, right? So then J.J. Thomson took his work and said, "Hey, this guy's got something going," and he says, "Okay, what happens if I hit it?" Boom, and it started a alternating current. Yep. Tesla took these guys' work and said, "Let me make it into a model." Mm-hmm. You know why it's called the District of Columbia? because it's electromagnet, just like the elections, because we have electric elections, right? We vote and we vote at the polls, charging the candidate. Candidate needs white light of all glory. Bada bing, bada boom.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yep.
So it's a possibility, who knows? So I just want to get that story. Okay, so let's get into it. It's really kind of bogging my mind, like we're with a wonderful lady here, Maria, and you and I, we're all talking astrology and whatnot. We're all speaking flat earth, but there's no astrologist speaking flat earth. I mean, the one question I have for any astrologers is solar return, 2 words. Solar return. If the earth is not flat, what are you calling a solar return? And then they have to come to the idiocracy point where they have to start talking about sunrises and sunsets. What's a sunrise? What's a sunset? Oh, they just apparently, and it really isn't. You know what I mean? We're not seeing the sun move. It's really moving, but we're not seeing the sun move because they told us it's not moving. So I'm afraid that the astrologists have been afraid to even when they start thinking about it, because it makes so much sense. I've been, like we were talking about, I was going to be really hard for me if I found out that the flat earth, that astrology did not support flat earth. And I did that mind drill before I really committed to flat earth, right? Well, I have never proved myself wrong since. It totally validates it, and solar return is your easiest way for me proof. What is a solar return? It's the time it comes back, and let's just dispel another myth. You only have one birthday. You have a solar return. It's not a birthday anymore. You get birthed once. You celebrate that you were birthed, but we call it, so this is kind of a technical thing, but Maria brought it up, it was really cool. It's like, yeah, it's a solar return. We should start referring to the solar return as our birthday instead of our birthdays. I don't really think, but to me, that is one of many. So can you tell me others that really codify that flat earth and astrology do go hand in hand in syncretism?
Yeah, it's not the earth returning, it's the sun. It's returning to a position over the stationary earth. So the other thing is, how can, when you do astrology, there's all the planets there, the sun, the moon, but there's no earth. You know, where is the earth? In the 3rd house, in the 5th house? Well, it's not there. It's the place it is on the ascendant. So the astrologers, the ancient astrologers, would call the line from the ascendant to the descendant, the DC in the west, the line of the earth. So there it is. That's where the earth is. That's the only line that always is horizontal. The ascendant in the east to the descendant in the west, because that's the earth. That's the flat earth. And then above that arch above 180 degrees, that's the daylight. The arch below represents the night. Okay, so this is showing how it is representing the position of the earth, because of course the ascendant gives you your body, your physique, your look, virtually, your rising sign, because it is the strongest sign in that sense, because it's connected to the eastern point. And the eastern point is always the strongest, because that's where everything rises. The ether field above the earth appears to rise from there, of course, because it comes out of the, it comes out of the false horizon that is created in the atmosphere, but it's still above the earth. Here's another thing, Jamie, by the way. Pierluigi Gina, with a grin, he would often tell how he once showed the mayor of his city and engineers, civil engineers, and very important military people the sun by night. Now, he didn't... and he would grin as he would say that. I showed many times the people, he would say, the sun by night. He says you can see the sun in the blackness, behind the blackness. I've got instruments.
Which sun, if we have two suns?
Well, I mean, of course, what he's doing is he's penetrating where the sun actually is,
right,
behind the blackness, which we can never penetrate. Right.
But there's a yin to the yang, so there is a dark sun, there's a dark moon, there's black Rahu that refer to in all the ancient theocosmogony as well.
That's right. So that ether
See, like that, he's looking through it, right? There it is right there. He's looking through to the sun. But he's looking through the earth. It's just like we were trying to prove round ball, and they would say, well, you couldn't see this. You couldn't see the northern stars when you're 20 degrees latitude of the southern hemisphere. So that you should be able to see it. If you're round ball, you'd have to be looking through the earth. It just showed you that the round ball theory from just basic mind drills, it just makes no sense.
That's right.
Right? Makes no sense at all. Here's another one for people that, but about astrology, when you start talking about the earth and the moon and everything, in astrology, where is the earth in your chart?
Well, it's probably in two places. The lot of fortune.
Apparently, probably. Where is it? No, I know where Saturn is. I know where the moon is. I know where everyone is but the earth. Because why? Why don't we have earth in our charts when we look at it?
Well, this is what I was saying before. It is the ascendant.
Because we're the whole picture.
Yeah.
We're the whole enchilada. So we don't put our whole enchilada into the parts.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
That's why flat Earth, when it says that we are the most important of all creation, or we're one of billions and billions in the corner of some insignificant galaxy, official story, and we don't mean shit to anybody, or we're the most important. And that's the same these astrology people got to wake up to, is when you get into flat Earth astrology, start your own business, make it a meme, let's get this thing going. You are telling everybody that all this creation matters. And that flat Earth astrology is the new paradigm for all of us to understand that this important work we have to do is about our conscious rising. And flat Earth is a rising. You're meeting your tribe when you meet people that are flat Earthers, because they come from all different places and they have an open mind.
Yep.
And so that's why astrotheology and your theocosmogony, these other terms we're using of God and spirit and matter and astral planes and ether planes, and now we're using magnets and everything else, we're talking about subtle energies. And what is flat Earth if it's in a dome? It's an energy field. So we're talking about home, dome, kingdom, freedom, wisdom. So yeah, we're coming home to and I want to make flat Earth astrology a thing.
Yeah.
Right. So what else we debunk these guys with? It's pretty much everything, right?
Yep.
But when you bring in spirit and flat Earth and astrology, it's the path. It's the blueprint. We all know that something's guiding us. Well, here's the blueprint. Here's the guide, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Everything makes more sense when you understand this, how the Earth is stationary, and this field is, it's a very interesting field, actually. It consists of what passive energies, which are akin to the 12 titans. That would be the 12 signs of the zodiac. So they would be the 12 disciples of Jesus as well, etc., etc. The sun going through the ecliptic and having 12 30-degree segments to go through 12 different months, 12 different seasons throughout the year. And then they would also measure the effect of the active agents in the universe called the planets. And they were Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, the 7. So it was always the 7 against the 12, the 7 Olympians and the 12 Titans. And their struggles in the heavens were the wars on Mount Olympus. See? And so when you're looking at an astrological chart, for instance, if you have Jupiter squaring Saturn, that's Jesus squaring Satan, theologically speaking. But in astrology, they will tell you why that is not a good aspect of that square, because they call that tetragonal radiation. Tetragonal radiation. Whereas a trine, see, a square is 90 degrees. That's very harsh. Whereas a trine, 120 degrees, this is called trigonal radiation. So you see, when you understand astrology, you understand that it is a science of understanding the different energies along the ecliptic. And so, as these 7 planets turned, you know, it was like Krishna with his churning the milk, you know, turning it. As this is happening, lost my point. Okay, yeah, okay. I was thinking of a book that will explain this. I'll go down and grab it in a minute. Firmicus Maternus. how he explains how all these 7 planets, they have, like Saturn will have that earthy, element about it. Jupiter will have airy and fiery. Mars will have fire, of course, etc. So they will have all their different energies, and as they turn inside the firmament, there are 7 more layers, 7 more heavens, or 7 more portals, or bodies, or kingdoms, you could call them. And as they turn and transit the various signs, they generate different energies and frequencies on the Earth. And this is how history is made. This is how people are formed in the womb. This is how people behave, and you can understand how they are constituted, from an energy point of view, because that's what astrology tells you. See, astrology tells you that if someone is born in the sign of Taurus, they have a very solid frequency in their nature, and they are grounded and earthy. It's an earth sign. And that's because there are 4 different frequencies in the universe. There's fire, which is plasma, then air, which is gas, then water, which is liquid, then earth, which is what is solid. And so these people will have more of a practical, realistic, solid, grounded energy. Someone from Aries, fiery, they will be more mystical, cerebral. They will be more, a little bit more on the other side of being grounded. I don't want to say nasty things. I'm trying to keep it positive, but they have their fiery virtue, passion, inspiration. They're very inspirational, for instance. Whereas the Taurian doesn't mean they're not inspirational, but they will have the opposite of those of beautiful energies as well. So, and as the different planets go through those, right, they mix their energies with them, and some are good and some are not so good. So depending on when the individual is born, he is cast in those energies, because all those fields have generated their energy, and when you take your first breath, you are impregnated with the magnetic fields of all of those planets, and the frequencies they run on, and mixed with the signs that they're in, whether they are good signs or bad signs for their particular energy. And so in astrology it tells you that some planets don't do well in certain signs. For instance, Saturn doesn't do well in Leo. It's in detriment there. I won't go into that now, but what that means, but some signs are not good at all. They don't mix very well. And see, this is where things can happen. For instance, in the individual, you could have perhaps an illness related to that part. For instance, if it's Sagittarius, you will have something, if it's a bad aspect there, or a bad planet which doesn't like Sagittarius, a hip problem, okay, because Sagittarius is the hip. If it's in Leo, it will be the heart problem, and Saturn in Leo can, I've seen in some charts, where Saturn has hurt the individual with cardiac problems, circulatory problems, etc. Being a cold planet, it sort of probably slows the blood down if it's positioned in Leo, because of course this relates to the human organism. It is astrological, as Aries, of course, is the first sign in the cerebrum, at the top of the head, and then Pisces are at the bottom of the feet. And the ancients knew that the body, as man is the measure of the universe, was in the skies. And so they always started their astrological journey on the 21st of March at the equinox in the spring. And it was a spring cleaning time. And so everything, the year begins there, the blossom. The blossom is the starting point of the year, because it's a real positive sign that something has begun. And that is the season which ends in Virgo, the harvest. And so it's interesting how, as this etheric field turns every 24 hours above our heads, and gives us the so-called rotation of our relationship with the heavens and the earth. As this is happening, every 24 hours, it is transmitting different frequencies to the earth, you see. And this is why astrologers, billionaires love astrology, you know, because they can get their astrologers to always invest when the energies are good for that, in the, you know, under the firmament, and to pull their money out or go slow in spending when it's not a good time. And you can just do that by following the moon or anything else. People who say to me, "Oh, you know, how can Jupiter do anything? You know, it's just a star, you know, planet up there." Well, look what the moon does. You know, police will tell you that on the full moon night, there's always more crimes than any other day. Strange behaviour occurs. So if the moon can do that, in fact, you know, it's very easy to tell that astrology does work. It's very simple. You know, just do your own testing. Plant seeds when the moon is in a very good watery sign like Cancer, or say Pisces, Taurus. Beautiful moon. They're the 3 best moon signs. So try that, and when those signs are when the moon is waxing, preferably a waxing moon in any one of those signs, plant seeds then, and do some testing, and you'll see how much better they grow with the moon cycles. You know. So of course, but in this instance, you'd want to do it when the moon's waning, because seeds should be when the moon's waning, and plants above the ground when the moon is waxing. But this is what I often present as a very good example. It's easy to prove. You can even test your hair. If you cut your hair when the moon is waxing, it grows faster. If you cut it when it's waning, it slows the growth down. And you can just test it. It's quite easy to do. So, yeah, I think probably went into a different area than what you asked originally, but
no, let me just say.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that. I just want to bring up this one. Maybe it's you. And just the whole cycle of life, and again, it's centered around our conscious development. The Kali Yuga cycle, the whole great year, Plato's great year, which is from the Vedics of 25,920 year cycles. This is playing out on a very big wheel, a very big wheel. We learn, we lose, we grow, we lose. You know, it's all part of Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu. You know, creation, synthesis, and destruction. And so understanding our place gives us much better understanding of who we are, where we're fit. But to understand that this is such a big cycle of change in a much bigger cycle of who we are and what we're about.
Yeah.
You know, you bring in the heavens, making us look up again, and the mythology of the heavens, which the ancients all learned, that was their Bible. You know, they told them the story of us is up there, and you brought that down to us again. We're learning about flat Earth. That's bringing it down to us. You know, more and more people getting turned on to astrology. All we're doing is reconnecting with all what the ancients already knew, because we're remembering what we have forgotten. We have lost this kind of knowledge. And I wanted to see if I could bring up this chart, because maybe it's this guy. Yeah. It's that one. All right, so this is Venus, geocentric path, and flat Earth. Wow. Does it fit? Does it work? I mean, we got to get on astrologers listening, or give this to your astrologer friends that are listening here. Do your homework, folks. You'll be a flat earther in no time. It's all right here. I mean, I just pulled this up and I went, wow, there's the seed of life.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it's Venus. What is Venus? Isn't she the seed of life? Isn't that perfect?
There
In perfect, elegant simplicity?
Yep. The pentagon, pentagram.
There it is.
Yeah,
right here.
It's
And the beauty of it encapsulating the entire flat Earth story.
Yep, and you can see where it goes up to the Tropic of Cancer. That's so that's right up here. You can see it does the small loops at the Tropic of Cancer there above, and then of course, whoops, on the flat Earth, of course, here down here is the Tropic of Capricorn. So you can see Venus has you know, a different sort of shape. So you can see it's always circling around the North Pole.
The mother.
Yeah, and here
Isn't Venus the mother? Mother Gaia?
That's right.
Isn't that representing Venus? And here's her elegant design right there in front of us.
Yep.
All over the center of Mount Meru.
Yeah.
Of all creation. And so I think when we do this with all the ecliptics, of all the plane T's, planet, you guys, means plane, T means extra, ET means extraterrestrial. It means extra lands. Plane T, planet, means plane terrestrial. They're telling you it's even plain in the word plane T. Stars used to be called luminaries because they enlightened us, and we got to get back to using the terms the ancient used. They're luminaries. We were out looking at the hundreds of stars, billions last night out here because we're away from all light pollution, and all of them are there to help us. Think about that for a second. All the stars you see in the sky are there to help you. Wake up. Wake up. All you got to do is learn their language, learn what they're trying to teach you, learn their lessons. And that's what this is so great about, is flat Earth and astrology. Those are life lessons of bigger spiritual dimensions of, from mind to heart. Right? This is about a mind to heart leap. We're all connected, and here it is, folks. Another beautiful, elegant example.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very interesting too that Venus's transits occur in Gemini and in Sagittarius, opposite. So yeah, the last two that happened in 2005 and 2012, they were in Gemini, both in June. So you can see that the transit is nothing but a node. I've done a presentation on this and thoroughly gone into it and shown and proven, as Mercury can only do transits in Taurus and Scorpio opposite, Venus only does transits in the next two signs, Gemini and Sagittarius. So the next time Venus does transits, it will be in Sagittarius in about 120 years.
Let me cut you in for a second. Let's get into this. I'm super excited. Vision 2020 and astrology. What are we seeing lined up, right? What we're seeing lined up, one, is this UN. This is a United Nations poster. Notice the flat Earth, folks. Look at the bullseye, just like we just showed. Venus overlaying it. Notice the rays coming from this 2, shooting through the O2, right? So here's your sun laying out over the flat Earth, right? Vision. Now, what do they tell us is their dominant theme, and they do all the actors to do the one eyes. Why is it always the one eye? Because their statement is, in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. That's why the Joker has one eye on your playing cards and everything. So what are they telling us by 2020? They're going to have perfect vision, which means we're going to be blind even further, because they're shining the light and you can't see in our light, it's too bright. So that's what I'm seeing as Vision 2020. But you take a chart, and maybe you can take off of this from here, but the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, not only on the winter solstice on top of each other, first time in 6,000 years, but like 3 degrees from ascending, I think, is Jupiter and Saturn on the summer solstice, first time in 6,000 years. So if you believe millionaires don't do astrology, billionaires do, right? Because they plan their events, just like on 9/11. It's very astrology. You can very much see that was a very trigger point for a perfect scenario. This is what I'm calling for. We got to wake up this next year, folks. The heat's on, they're coming. So talk to us about the conjunctions and the solstice, and what do you see as 2020 happening? Ooh, exciting here in the fun part.
Yeah. To me, I always see it as the return of something. In Scripture, it's the return of the Christ, so the second coming. What happens is, in our evolution, we reach certain levels, and we penetrate deeper into, consciousness and grow. Our nervous system perfects, and we just transform. So this is the where was I going with that now? Can you put me back on?
Well, just that we're talking about 2020, the events coming in like no other time in thousands of years, but the summer solstice and the winter solstice, why is that so important? What does that matter that Saturn and Jupiter conjunction at the exact same time Some of the outer planets take much longer to ever come together like this,
Yep.
and why that's significant.
Yeah, that was the point. I lost that. So, yeah, that conjunction on the 21st of December 2020 of Jupiter and Saturn on 0 degrees Aquarius, that's big. You know, that's that sort of conjunction between those two was the same one they keep saying was the Jesus conjunction that happened in 4 BCE. Supposedly that was happening in Pisces to usher in the age of Pisces. And all astrologers note that particular date, you know, because of this conjunction. Now it's happening in Aquarius. So it's ushering in that Saturnian Aquarian age. But you have to remember that Aquarius is, opposite Aquarius is Leo, so it's also the age of Leo. Okay? It's the autumnal side, whereas Aquarius is the vernal side, equinox. So the Leo is the lion, the Sphinx, and Aquarius is the head of the Sphinx. And was pointing, the Sphinx has been pointing to Aquarius and Leo for about, I think it's 12,500 years, half of one of these precessional cycles, or the full 25,000 years. And now that's here, you see. So that's what the Sphinx is doing. It's Aquarius and Leo. And so it's the age now, and so it's also the age of the sun, the saviour in Leo, the lion of the tribe of Judah. So a lot of people get negative with Aquarius because of Saturn and Uranus being the rulers, so they think it'll be malefic. It probably will in a perfecting sort of a way. Saturn's going to do all the finishing that we need to make us, give us finesse, and to bring us into that higher realm. But the sun is the interesting thing about Leo, the Leo side, because that's the one we go through, the saviour. And the presentation I'm going to be doing in Sacramento, I'm going to be explaining this process about the sun being a portal in the heavens. In fact, the sun is a hole in the sky, in the firmament. And I was inspired to understand this by Pierluigi Ghina. He always says that the stars are holes in the sky. Now this man is very incredible. His inventions have all been amazing. But and so we keep speaking about wormholes and how we get into this dimension through wormholes. Well, that's the hole, the holy hole with its halo, hallowed in the heavens. You know, so they're all little holes, and probably the real light is behind those holes, like the canopy in a forest. You know, when you look up, you see sun rays coming through the canopy. It's not the leaves that are producing the light. You know, they are just allowing it to be channeled through them. But the real light, they say, is behind the sun. That's the sun behind the sun. Right. So, but I'd love to go into what Eric Dollard speaks about the sun, if you want to go down that way, and some other people like Pierluigi Ghina. Oh man, I'd love to go into some of that, because then you'd understand this ether field that Pierluigi Ghina speaks about. There is only that rotating field, and below that there is the stationary Earth, provable by scientific method and experiment, not calculations, you know, and equations. You know, these days these theoretic scientists are doing everything by equation. You know, like there's a plus and a zero and this to the power of 400, and they dazzle people with these equations.
Well, yeah, but let's do it in the here and now, though. So next year, less than 1 year away, people like Martin Kenny, if you haven't gotten into Martin Kenny's site, Flat Earth Universe, please check out Martin Kenny. He's done yeoman's work in bringing ancient theocosmogony to all of us. He and Santos had a brilliant, a couple hours probably, And Martin was presenting his thesis on how he looked at the flat plane and the evolution emanating from the Mount Meru North Pole of the four races, the Hyperboreans, the Lemurians, Polarians, and the Atlanteans. And so what Martin is also proposing is that he wants to go up to the North Pole in 2020, and he thinks there's going to be an ascension. He thinks there may be an opening. His research has led him to a wonderful book entitled, I forget, it was back in the 1850s about the Garden of Eden being at the North Pole. And that's where all the magnetism is, the attraction is magnetism. So in 2020, up to the North Pole, there may be an energy shift. Those of us that are raising consciousness, we're getting vibrations, we're feeling like we're of this earth, but we don't belong to this earth. We're different beings than what we thought we were. All of us are able to maybe ascend to a higher portal because this vibrational frequencies will be allowed, and you have to be prepared at higher vibrational frequencies if you're to ascend, if you're doing your work. That's why becoming vegetarian, becoming vegan, slowing your lifestyle down, getting your head clear, helping others, researching all these dark conspiracies, understanding flat earth, all these things are vibrationally shifting your consciousness. And with this higher vibrational patterns that we're all having, there is a possibility of our spirit being able to ascend with the ancients as the same time frame that they talked about 6,000 years ago, as this exact same time, astrological wise, as we're seeing coming up in 9 months. And he thought, you know about Martin going up there to the North Pole and doing this sled thing and going up there and checking it out? So who's to say that that energy might not be available for those of us? So my question to you is, Santos, if you could ascend into a lighter being and leave some of the heavy darkness, but also some of the feeling, that Earth allows you to be in a dense material, most material realm as we're leaving Kali Yuga going into Dwapara Yuga, would you choose to ascend? Or would you choose to stay here in this darkening crap hole of the world that we're having to take better and make better with us starting to lead?
Yeah, ascension, for sure. I've watched my own ascension process. It's been an amazing journey the last, say, 10 years, especially since 2007. And yeah, I've gone through a bad period as well, which is going to end next month. I'm in my K2 period, the K2 Mahadasha in sidereal astrology. So that began in September of 2012, and it's a 7-year period of bad luck. And I've had it lots and lots of bad. It's horrible, because K2 is the tail of the dragon. It's the south node. And when it rules your life, it's like a period of you behaving in a headless way. Unreasonable. You lose everything, your property, your family, your home. When my Dasha began in September of 2012, I was living in a place for 12 years, and the landlord rang and said, you need to be out of there in a month, in 30 days. And that began. Since then I've moved 9-10 times. Wow. So that's about to end, and Venus is going to begin late September. So that'll be 20 years of Venus, which will be benefic. But knowing these things, you can see how it enables your consciousness expansion. And I've watched mine in the last, say 12 years, and definitely everything has improved internally. My health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health has improved in the end. In the end, I got the results. I struggled. I had problems with my health, which I've overcome. But in the main, I would say everything has expanded conscious-wise, and understanding and wisdom too, I think. Perspective improves. So we're lucky, Jamie, because we we have enabled and accepted the truth to penetrate our hearts and not let our reputations or whatever else get in the way of that, and just boldly speak about what is the truth, what is truth. That the earth is a stationary flat plane, horizontal, and that and that astrology is the science of how the field above it generates different frequencies and different moods and different patterns, history, everything. It's all the effect of their energies that is making the historical theatre that is the earth. Earth is an anagram for theatre, and it is a theatre. And the sun is the central piece of it, because the sun is the portal. See, in Scripture it says, Jesus says, no one goes to the Father except through me. Saying that that is the portal to exit here, and it equates to the heart chakra, and that's why Jesus is always pointing to the heart chakra, and with his other hand he's pointing upward, because that's the portal. You go through there, and you ascend up into heaven, to the Lamb of God, which is Aries, the crown chakra, and this is when the Lamb and the Lion lie together. When the crown chakra and the Aries and the heart chakra, Leo, are reached and succeeded. They have been mastered, these planes. So it's very difficult to get on that path, but that's the path above the heart, the 3 chakras above the heart, which bring you into spiritual contact with your higher self. Whereas the lower chakras are dealing with all the grounding, the power and the grounding on the earth, and the mechanical and material interests more so. Necessary for living, but this is where people are pretty much trapped in them. They're trapped in those chakras, and they never succeed in reaching, the higher chakras, and through the heart to find love and bliss, and then from there, they can expand and turn all their other chakras. And it's a beautiful experience, you can do this with meditation and yoga and exercises, and yet this is discouraged in society, but all of this is for channeling the beautiful energy. This is why we have 12 meridians, acupuncture meridians in the body, 12 cranial nerves, 12 nerves in the solar plexus, the 12 systems of the body, each one governed by one of the signs of the zodiac. You see, this is how the human body is. It's a miniature universe. As Origin said, you are a universe unto yourself, with the sun and the moon and the planets and the stars in you. And we are all these mini universes, fractal, just like the big universe, or whatever you can conceive. So it's glorifying, to know how the whole system works. It just makes astrology, the word of God, I call it, more glorious. It makes it more significant in my view.
Yeah, thank you for all that, and also more elegant. I mean, everything that we look at is simply and elegant, like this biomagnetic healing we're getting into. It's elegant, it's simple. Nature is complex, but in the big picture, it's elegant and simple, and it's based on love. And we got to get back to a principle of love, not desire, not want, not need, and knowing that each of us is in the same game together. So we're in the same sphere of influence. So what do we want to influence? Not what we're not against, but what we're for. And one of the things I found, Santos, is really interesting is, like we were just talking about today, is asking people how many breaths they take in a minute. And most people have no idea how long it takes them to breathe in and out in 1 minute. But it's basically between 16 and 18 breaths in a minute. And so again, as above, so below. So if I take 18 breaths in a minute, and so an hour times 60 is 1,080, which is exactly 1/2 of a year of a zodiac cycle of 12 cycles of 2,160 years, right? 2,160 divided by 2 is 1,080. The same number of breaths is the same number of one creation of the precession of the equinox. But I'm showing that the crescent of the equinox is 25,920 years. So that's 12 zodiac cycles going times 2,160 years each cycle. This is why we're leaving the Kali Yuga cycle. This is the end of the Pisces, right? The fish. This is why all Christians have fish on their cars and don't even know. It's astrology they're promoting, folks. You got fish on your car because it's a Piscean age. Rams, get it? The Lamb of God, get it? The bull, the Sphinx and the bull, you get it? See how it's all predicated on what's going on above and why it matters? So the Plato Great Year, they say, is 25,920 years. But that is just a small parcel of the big year, which is the Mantavara Pralaya of one creation of Brahma, which is 311 trillion, 40 billion years. So this really gets our head up. And I meditate. When I say meditate, I try and meditate on 25,920 years. What does a full cycle look like in our small world? So as we breathe how many? We said it was 1,080 breaths times 24 hours is 25,920 breaths. One breath is a great year inside of us of one day. As above, so below. And it further proves. But there's Vedic teachings about the Mantavara and Pralaya, 311 to 40 billion years. They said the Christ event was the beginning of the end of the breathing out of the creation and the beginning of the return back in.
Yeah,
creation and dissolution.
Yep.
So here we have to destroy things to create something new, get over it.
Yeah.
Take things down to build something new, get over it. It's going to come down. Yeah, it's been up. Okay. It's coming down. Tartarian Empire is showing that the whole truth matter and the whole European history, U.S. history, it's all going away, folks. Tartarian Empire is taking that whole story down. We've been lied to about such huge things we can't even get our head around. But there's certain cosmic truths that are always there, which we're learning and discovering through our work and our process. That's what's so important about what you're doing. And yes, you're going to be a Leona. No, they're not going to get it. 99% are never going to get it. Move on. You know, just hook up with Santos. Hook up with some of these other people that are speaking some truth and telling you some knowledge and download. And then get out and take that knowledge and help others where you can, because others are waking up too, but everybody's not doing it. They're doing it alone. And so if this 2020, this chaos comes up, what do we want? It's chaos. What do we want? Because now we can take order out of chaos, right? It's their game. We can play it too. So get on your butt, start thinking what you want, start doing it, and stop worrying about they. Start getting out there and create a website, help some communities, go volunteer, go do some swaps, go help somebody that needs some help, go talk to some old people in a room if you can. I mean, there's so many things. Go to a food bank and help volunteer. There's so many things you can be doing just in the physical realm. But in the spiritual and the mental realm, this brings us to a much, much deeper, more beautiful, elegant, feminine divine story. You talk about the sun, I want to talk about the feminine divine. Nurture nature that's gotten run over, that's getting run over, that gives us all life. The womb of the earth, the Amazon forest is on fire. Nobody's talking, oh, the Amazon forest. Lungs of the earth. What does that mean for humanity? We've gotten so numb with all the geoengineering and all these talks about all the wacko things going on in the world, black goo and all these D-Wave computers and CERN and all this crap we get into. We forgot about Mother Earth being raped. We forgot Mother Earth that gives us all life. We forgot that she is the one that without her, okay, you cannot have the sun and you're having a tough time, granted. Take away the feet and the ground we stand on, and where are you, folks? You're not here. We'll find out if it's a hollow earth or not. Right? So all I'm saying is there's this yin-yang going on, but it's a beautiful, elegant yin-yang of the entire creation. Find your opposite, find your pair, but also find your attractions in the flat earth community and in astrology, because the astrology is a blueprint for all of us. It's not simple, but it's elegant in its design, and it's layered on layered on layered. We were talking earlier, how many types of astrology are there? There's past life regression astrology, there's natal astrology, there's sun astrology, there's, you're going to challenge me. There's day astrology, what's going on in your day. There's horary astrology, ask a question, you get an answer. There's location astrology, hey, where do you want to live, where should I go, should I move here, should it be good for me? There's synastry, is this person good for me, is this my love life partner, is this my soulmate? Questions like that. There's medicinal astrology, hey, how's the medicinal going on, you know, in your bodies? Hippocrates said I wouldn't do astrology unless I had read a natal chart before I worked on it. Oh, who's Hippocrates? He's the father of modern Western medicine. So again, astrology is huge in everything. And then you want to know other things about locations because it works for city-states. You can find out the birth of city-states and see what their karma was. Karma means action coming in. So there's literally dozens and dozens upon more than that types of astrology and layers on layers. But the basics of the energies of the 72 names of God that relate to the different 7 sacred planets. We use the word planet. So the 7 sacred luminaries, all right, with the sun and the moon that revolve around us in like an album. If you think about flat Earth, you think about an album on a photograph, and we're the needle going around, and above us in a circular fashion, in and out, is the sphericals of the sun and the moon, the energy fields. Not necessarily anything physical, but light beings that are of energy. And we also found, Santos, when I was doing my research with Bruce back in 1907, we found a document from the British Naval Academy at 23.5 degrees Cancer. They found 2 to 3 inch spherical metallic spheres in the entire circle around the Arctic. So I always wondered how the traveling sun could get more focused, and then it had to kick back and have enough energy to keep creating as it got longer and longer on its path, returning and leaving us from our summer in the northern part, going back away. Well, it's the sphericals that were in the water at 23.5 degrees, which tell them, here's your limiter, bing, like in pinball, and sends you and gives you the energy to send you back on your way, and it's sitting right there in the water. And this was discovered back in 1907 by the British Navy. And it proves this whole elegant theory. I always wondered what stops it and turns it to go back, and now it's time to go back the other way and start the next season. Well, we found it. It's the magnetism of the salt water, which is electrolysis, which is the hydroelectric static, which J.J. Thomson and Augustine de Colomb we talked about, gave it the kick. That's what gave it the kick to go back and forth. Mm-hmm. Just like electromagnetic energy, when it reaches the end of its polarity or the end of its magnetism, it finds its kick to go back. Yeah. Because it has that extra charge in there, and that connects to the Earth, and that's where the dome. That's what what's his name, Admiral Byrd, 33 Freemason, went in Operation High Jump right after World War II to try and find the dome, because he sent a rush mission down there with 3 different class ships, and they were rushed down there, and they bugged out in 6 weeks because all their instruments got fried from the electromagnetic fields and stuff like that. But the design is elegant. The design is beautiful about this whole theocosmogony and astrotheology and astrology, flat Earth astrology, because we do have solar returns. The sun does rise. The sun does set as we appear on our flat stationary Earth. And everything's centered around us. You want to find where the North Pole is? Oh, they put a thing up there called the Big Dipper. And if you take the bottom of the Big Dipper and you look where the bottom of the pan is and you point, it will always point at the Big Dipper, because you can always find the gods in heaven. Well, how elegant is oh, by the way, the Big Dipper is a clock. Swastika. Where do you think they got swastika? So the Big Dipper is a clock going counterclockwise. And you see swastikas all over Tibet, they're all counterclockwise. Because that's the energy of the Earth and the spin, counterclockwise, right? What they did with Hitler, well, Himmler, not Hitler, but the way they did it with Himmler and the whole Nazi propaganda was they flipped it for the negative energy. And they're using the heavens above, but the heavens above were our guides. Mm-hmm. You know, just as you elegantly described the whole birth of Jesus and the whole animals and the Arabic stars that all are related to the birth of Jesus and the manger and how that all fits in astrotheology. I love that. That helped me so much, put it together. Flat Earth is the center of all creation, and we're the most important part, and we're ruining it. We're ruining it by not waking up as we should be. We're not doing our homework. We're not seeking out. We're not just letting go of all our false belief systems and holding dearly on to that we know secure. Aquarian times is a time of air. It's airy. It's of the mind, folks, to get to the heart. The heart chakra opens when the mind figures shit out, right? Yep. That's the way it works. Yep. Figuring stuff out. That means shining light into your darkness, because when you shine light into darkness, it's not dark anymore. Yep. Darkness cannot extinguish light. Hello. Just like hate can't extinguish hate, but love can extinguish hate. Yep. Right? So we have to become lighter beings. When we went to the Ascension, the Egyptians, when you went into the tomb of the Ascension, what did they weigh you by? They put a feather in one side of the Libra scales and they put your heart in the other. And those are anagrams of each other. And keep it light is the message. Mm-hmm. These are all metaphors, folks, all these imageries and everything for how we should be living our lives. They're clues. And you have to be like a detective. You have to start seeing under the covers. You have to be curious. You have to want to know. And you have to research. And you have to start speaking out once you do this, because it's your obligation to help others, because so many others are waking up. So do you have any other comments you want to share?
I'd love to share a quote from Firmicus Maternus to understand how a real ancient astrologer considered astrology and how it works, how the universe really works in a few short words. In the third book, Firmicus Maternus, this is a 4th century astrologer, third book, just in the introduction he says, we must be aware that God, the Creator, copying nature, has made man in the image of the universe, a mixture of 4 elements, fire, water, air, and earth, so that a well-proportioned combination might produce the living being as a divine imitation. With his divine skill, he so composed man that the whole force and essence of the elements is collected in that small body. In this way, he prepared a lodging for the divine spirit, which descends from the heavenly soul to maintain the mortal body. This spirit, though fragile, is nevertheless a likeness of the spirit of the universe. Thus man, like a tiny universe, is sustained by the fiery, everlasting fiery movement of the 5 planets and the sun and moon. Those divine men, altogether worthy and admirable, Petasiris and Chepso, who approached the very secrets of divinity, also handed down to us the birth chart of the universe, in order to show us that man is made in the likeness of the universe, according to those same principles by which the universe itself is ruled, and that he is sustained forever by those same everlasting fires. So these guys knew it was all frequency, energy, frequency, and vibration. And so the only way to thoroughly understand energy, magnetism, etc., is astrological. It's the only way. It has the energy wave, the sinusoidal wave, in 12 sections. You know, it's not simplistic as we do in everyday living. They make energy positive and negative. You know, a battery has a positive and a negative terminal, and this is duality. But see, in that circuit going from positive to negative, there are 12 different attributes. There are 12 different principles, rather, I should say, in those. You know, there are 12 gods of magnetic, you know, conditioned energy. And when you understand energy as a 12ness, we can harvest it better. We can know when to inject, for instance, inject fuel in a motor, at what part of the cycle, or you know, to harvest that energy so that it you know, multiplies and it becomes multiplicative rather than just additive. Anyway, so I just want to share that Firmicus Maternus quote, because the ancients, they all, you know, they acknowledged it's God, the Creator. It's not, you know, it's not an atheist, you know, Copernican Big Bang, you know, moving target. It's all fixed, and as the scriptures say, you know, the God of heaven made the earth fixed and immovable. It will never be made to totter forever and ever and ever. The foundations thereof are made firm and fixed. Alrighty, I'll just finish with that then.
Oh, okay, we're going on an hour here, so maybe we should cut it here, and thank you for all that enlightened and helping us. And this name of this book that you're looking at, I love the way you do your homework. And that's, you take this book apart, you got underlining, you got bookbinding on it, it's Maticios Libri, the 8th Firma Materia. Is this in
Firmicus Maternus.
Firmicus Maternus?
Yeah.
And that is Ancient Astrology Theory and Practice. It looks pretty dense.
Yeah.
Looks very dense.
Awesome.
But that's how we deciphered the code. These people, you try and read any of the Principias or any of the ancients, the Greeks and everything, and you realize they spoke in an eloquent language. It's a much deeper language than we speak in today. You have to learn how they thought and talked in order to decipher in the code what they're doing. That's one of the things that's doing great. Well, thank you, sir. That was fun. Now we're going to spark a bone here. We're going to do our hair tonight. We're going to do our hair tonight. We're going to do Santos's here. I'm going to report on it later. We'll do some filming on that. It's going to be fun. So this. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's tease it that way. All right, Plain Truth out. Thank you all for listening. Leave some comments if you want to share anything in the comment section, and let's do this again soon. Thank you, Santos.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
All right.